I'm Emily and welcome once again to my channel today. I'm not going to be watching anything. I'm going to be doing something that I said I was going to do like 2 weeks ago, something like that. Oh God, maybe even more. I just been swamped with work and my regular computer work. So I'm only had one computer left and it's the same one that I use for work. So it's a whole mess. So, things happen. That's why this is coming so late, but it's coming. Every time that I set a date in this channel, like I said, or put myself a deadline, ignore it because I am going to ignore it. I'm going to do things, whatever I can. And I should just stop putting deadlines on myself because I have enough deadlines at work. Anyway, this is coming. And this is a review for Dao Zu Shi, the donghua. It's finally here. And originally this was going to be like in the same video as the reaction. But then I realized the reaction is probably going to be longer and I usually record things pretty late. So by the time I get to the review, my brain is just not going to be working properly. Not that it usually is, but it's probably going to be worse. And I know that already my channel is not the most cohesive or coherent. I also know that 90% of my videos are pretty much stream of consciousness, and I apologize for that. It's just the only kind of video that I know how to do. I just can't do it. I can't deal with scripts. I don't know what it is. I don't have the time to do them. I don't have the time to write them. When I have them in front of me, I'm going to ignore them and do whatever I like. So this is what you get. Anyway, I thought that if I put the review in the same video, it was probably going to be a while longer for the review because I know this is going to be, I don't want to see like half an hour, but maybe it's going to be half an hour, maybe more, who knows. So that was going to make a very long video. So I decided, no, I'm going to do it in a separate video. I'm going to take my time to organize my thoughts. I'm going to not write a script, but yes, make a list of things that I need to mention. And I did that like 2 weeks ago and then never recorded this video. So, that's just the story of my life, really. So, but I'm here now, which is the important thing. It takes me a long time, but I usually do the things that I said the things that I said I was going to do. So, this is going to be about Dao Zu Shi, the donghua. So, as you can imagine, it's going to have spoilers. It's going to have a lot of spoilers. I'm going to spoil the whole thing as much as I remember. Because again, it was 2 weeks ago. And already there were parts of it, I have to admit, that are kind of fussy. But as much as I remember, I'm going to spoil. Not only that, I'm also going to spoil the Untamed. Because that isn't enough for me. And I know this is about Dao Zu Shi, the donghua. And I should keep it only in that show, but I'm not going to do that. And I tell you why. The Untamed is the only other thing that I watch in this. And I think you can compare both of these stories. Obviously, they are very different. But I feel like there are certain things in the stories. Obviously, they're telling the same story. So I feel like you can compare how, what are the strengths of one adaptation, what are the strengths of the other. And the word adaptation is interesting because I'm not going to be talking about them as adaptations. I haven't read the book. I barely started the book, so, I mean the novel. So I feel like, obviously, I have absolutely no authority to talk about the adaptation. Maybe in the future, when I finish the novel, I'm going to come back to this video. Or I'm going to do a separate video comparing the adaptations and maybe then we can talk. But now I don't feel comfortable talking about them as adaptations. I am going to compare them as two versions of the same story. And I want to, say which aspects I like more from each, which are the strengths, their weakness, obviously, especially focusing on Dao Zu Shi. But again, the Untamed is going to get mentioned a lot. So I hesitate calling this a review. This is more like, things I like, things I didn't like, focusing on specific things. I guess that is by definition what a review is. But then, yeah, this is a review. I go back on my word. This is a review. But it's not a thorough review. I'm not going to evaluate anything. This is just me giving my opinion on things. And that's pretty much it. So, this is what it is. Something else that I have to say, yes, this is obviously very subjective. And maybe there are things that in the future I'll change my mind. Maybe I'll say things here that then I'll say, I don't think like that anymore. And who knows? My opinion changes a lot. Like there are very few things that, in my opinion, remains the same. I tend to change a lot. So, in the future, when I finish the book and I do a similar video to this, maybe my mind will have changed completely. But again, this is absolutely subjective. I think, and I don't know if this is, a problematic opinion. Well, not problematic. If this is a controversial opinion. But I feel like sometimes the first thing that you watch is probably the one that you're going to like the most. And I think you can see where I'm going with this. I watched The Untamed first. So I feel, and I really liked it. I loved The Untamed. So I feel like maybe my opinion might be, I don't want to say contaminated, but let's say influenced by that fact. I think maybe if I had read the book, or maybe if I have seen the donghua first, my opinion would be different. And I'm not trying to hide that. I admit it. I think it's true. But take that into consideration. The other thing that I would say right away, because I'm going to be talking about some things about the donghua that people are going to say, oh, but you have to consider that the donghua is shorter. I know, and it's very short in comparison with The Untamed. Incredibly short. We have, how many episodes has the donghua had? God, I should have checked this before starting this. We have 15, 8, and 12. Something like that. That is a little bit more than, let's say 40 episodes. Let's go 40. I'm not going to do math here because every time that I do, I embarrass myself. So let's say between 40 episodes and less than half an hour, because I think each video was like around half an hour, but probably the episode itself was 20. So that is incredibly short in comparison with The Untamed, that we have 50 episodes that were like good 40 minutes or, maybe a little bit less. So obviously there are things that I know that will have to be changed to fit that time. I know it. If you say it in the videos, I'll say, yes, I know it. I say it here as well. I know that donghua didn't have the same kind of possibilities when it comes to the length of the episode. So let's just leave it there. So I made 2 lists, actually. One with the things that I didn't like, and the other one with the things that I did like. Let's start with the things that I didn't like, and then we can finish in a much happier note. Let's start with something that a lot of people told me about. Whenever I started the donghua, since the day I started, I got many comments of people saying it has a weird pace. And you know what? I know what they mean now. I understand fully what they mean when they say this show has a weird pace. I have the feeling that the first season, it was fine. Although looking back, I think maybe they take too long in some things. So maybe they could have shortened some of the story to make way for the things that were going to come after, because after that it was literally a rush. I'm going to be honest here. I don't remember a lot of the second season. I don't know what was going on in my life when I was watching it. I don't know what it is about the second season. Like, I remember things that happen, but if I try to put all my memories of the second season together, I have the feeling that I don't have enough to make the whole season. So there's obviously a lot of things that I'm forgetting. So I don't know. It's because the pacing was weird. I don't know. But I feel like starting from the second season, the pacing became much, much weirder. And I feel like it made the story a little bit more confusing. Again, by the time I watched the donghua, I had already watched The Untamed. So I had some idea of what the story was going to be like. I would like to hear from someone who is watching Dao Zu Shi from the first time. and don't know nothing about the story, and they are understanding everything only based on Dao Zu Shi. And if you have any people who had done reactions like that, let me know in the comments, because I'll be interested in watching them, because maybe they understood perfectly, and maybe it's because I had the story of the Untamed in my mind, that when things became different, I became confused. But again, I feel like a lot of the things were maybe a little bit rushed. I can't remember the Sunshot campaign, but I have very little memory about what the whole thing that came after with the Wens and all of that. So again, I feel like it's either my memory is terrible or we had very little time with it. So I don't know. I feel like especially the second season suffer a lot from maybe weird pacing. And the other moment where I feel that it was the same, that it was something that affected that, it was probably the ending of the show. And look, I love the ending. I loved it. I thought it was great. So don't think this is me criticizing the ending. But the whole thing in the temple, it was very rushed. I feel like Indian Tame is like, if I'm not mistaken, 3 whole episodes in the temple. Like, I don't know, because episode 50, we have the first part, and then the whole episode is outside of the temple. But I feel like, other than that, there's like these 3 episodes that are just in the temple. And I feel like maybe it's as it should be, because the temple is the climax of the story. There we have all the answers. There we solve all the mysteries. Like, here it is. Here it's everything. So I feel like if you rush that a little bit, it feels weird. That's what it felt to me. And also the fact that, I don't know, wait, is it my list this? I think it probably is. So maybe I'll mention it again. The fact that they made the revelation of Chang Cheng's golden core later. And again, I feel like I like in the Untamed how you have that climax in the temple falls down, whatever that happened. And then from there, it's just resolution. Like, this is what happened now, this is the end. While in this one, it feels like the temple happened and then the thing with Chang Cheng happened. I don't know. It felt weird to me and a little bit rushed. It feels like maybe we spent a long time with certain things than, that a longer time. And then with that, we just, just flew through. I don't know. I'll be honest. I haven't been reading comments on the video that people left of my reaction, specifically because I didn't want to be too influenced by comments. I just wanted my, let's say, pure opinion. So after this, I'm going to start answering them because I'm sure there's some very interesting comments there. But I don't know. So I don't know if this is something, it's a me problem, or this is something that, other people maybe felt as well. But as I said, if you know any other reactor that has watched first Dao Zu Shi without knowing anything of the story, I would appreciate, giving them a watch and see that experience. I believe, there is one, Romania Black, I think is one that she had watched the donghua first, but I don't know if she had already started reading the novel or she had read the manga. I don't know, but those are probably ones that are worth a watch. But if you know another, I think there must be more. Let me know. Something else that I didn't like, and this is something that I mentioned to death in my reactions, which is the fact that we really don't have a lot of time to get to know secondary characters. And again, I know donghua is shorter, we don't have that much time for anything. I accept it. I know that it's true. It's fine. But I still think that is something of, a detriment to the story. And again, I would like to see people who had watched the donghua alone to see how they feel. But in my case, I feel like, I don't know if I would have made such a strong connection with certain characters, with the way things were done in the donghua. For example, Yan Li. Yan Li, I think, is a clear example. And that one, I do know that in the Untamed, they extended her character a lot more than it was originally in the book. So there, I know it. I already know that. But I think it was a good job because I love Yan Li in the Untamed. No kidding. I can listen to Yan Li's theme, like just the music, and I would literally start crying. Like, I'm not joking. That is how much I love Yan Li in the Untamed. I love her. And in Medongwa, I was like, yeah, she was there. Like, obviously I love her because, I had that association with the Yan Li from the Untamed, but it's not as strong as my opinion of her in the Untamed. And I feel like it's not the only one. Like, I feel like there is a lot of characters that would have, that obviously, again, no time, but I would have loved to get to know better. Like, I would have liked them, or not like them. I just would have liked to, make more of those characters. And I'm trying to think if there is another one. There probably is. I think I mentioned them a lot. But obviously, also the whole relationship between Yan Li and Xin Sichuan, I also feel like I liked it better in the Untamed because of that. Because obviously we had a little bit more time, not only to, give certain clues or create certain moments of them that you start cluing. It's like, this is what's happening. I feel like it also helped that Yan Li, where in the Untamed, Yan Li went with them into Cloud Recesses, so that created even more opportunity for us to, from the beginning, to know, this is where this is going. Okay. So, I don't know, I just would have liked to see, more of the secondary characters, because the Untamed has a lot of characters, and it has a lot of very interesting characters. Even I feel like Nihua-san, which I feel like in the donghua, especially in the first part, I have the feeling that he's in there. God, I should have rewatched this before doing this. But again, I feel like, I don't know. I'm going to be talking about Nihua-san later, so I'm not going to say anything else. But even, for example, the Wens, obviously they're very portrayed very differently in the Untamed. And this is something that, again, in my opinion, it would be controversial, but definitely portray them differently. And I think the Untamed did a good job into making very clear what's their position, like what's happening with them. Like, from the beginning, you get to know the relationship between Wenqin and Wenin. And I really, really love that. In the donghua, we obviously we don't know them that much. And I don't know. I would have liked to get to know them better. I know that it's not necessarily canon. I do know that in certain aspects, the donghua is a lot closer to adaptation. And there you go. I said I was not going to mention adaptation, but there I am, breaking my own rules. I know the donghua is a lot closer in adaptation than the Untamed, especially in the first season. But still, I like the Wens. I like to see them. Let's talk about another thing that I feel like it wasn't as effective in the donghua, in my opinion, which were the plot twists. And mind you, I don't know if these are necessarily plot twists in the novel. They were certainly in the Untamed. So I feel like, especially, there are two pretty big plot twists in the Untamed. At least, I guess there are three if you consider the Golden Core. I don't consider it because I think it was pretty obvious that what had happened. Or I don't mean to say pretty obvious. I don't mean to sound smug. It's just the only thing that I have guessed in the adaptation. But let's just say that I feel like they maybe make it a little bit more evident than what had happened with Wei Wuxian and Shang Cheng. So I feel like the big plot twist that we have were, first, the fact that, Lan Zixue is actually a Xuan. I feel like that was a pretty big plot twist. And the other one was that Nihua-san was actually behind everything. Obviously, we have other plot twists, like the fact that Menyao was behind, everything he had done. But I never trusted Menyao, so to me that was a plot twist. Again, I'm just considering the ones that actually shock me, not that Menyao did any shifty thing, because I saw that coming a mile away. So let's talk about Lan Zixue. I feel like in the Untamed, throughout the show, we got like small clues about Lan Zixue being a Xuan. And then we have a moment in the Untamed in which They don't reveal it, but I think that is probably the one they make it the more obvious, which is that when after the ECT arc, we have them, all the juniors are in a fair, and, Lancy Shui is looking at some toys, and he's watching a specific toy that Achuan had played with when they had met, Lang Wangji all those years ago. And he then asked Jingi if he remember, what he was doing when he was free or something like that. And we see an image that is from the past. So that moment to me, I feel like maybe it could have gone over my head, but it didn't. I feel like, I don't remember, but I think maybe someone in the comments said, pay attention that they reveal something here, maybe you'll get it, maybe you don't. So I was already, paying attention. And I feel like that is when we get the revelation, and then we get the confirmation when Ning meets him and he realized that his name is Lan Xuan instead, his birth name. Well, not his birth name. We know what his birth name is. You know what I mean. I feel like that was very effective. I really enjoyed it. I feel like they treated more as a revelation. In the donghua, I have to be honest, I feel like it was more just information, like, and this happened. I feel it didn't have the weight of, oh, no, it's him. Look, when I find, watching the Untamed, when I find that Lancy Shui was a Xuan, I think I had a coronary. Like, I can tell you my reaction. And I'm not even interested in listening because it's probably embarrassing. But I remember my mind was blown. I couldn't believe it. In the donghua, obviously I already knew that obviously there was no revelation there. But I feel it was a lot more tame. And I think that's the tendency with the revelations in the Untamed. In the donghua, I feel that all of the plot twists were a little bit less plot twist. Like, I don't feel they have the same weight because there wasn't any build up to them. I feel like in the Untamed for Lancy Shui, there was a build up there that then it was like, here you have the answer, and it was great. But I think you can see this especially with Nihua-san. In the donghua, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think from the second season, it was already pretty clear that it was Nihua-san doing some shifty shit. I am almost sure it's from the second season. Correct me if I'm wrong, because the second season to me is like a void. But I'm pretty sure already there were not even strong hints, but pretty much us looking at Nihua-san doing shit. So I feel like that, I don't know. I didn't like that. I didn't like just showing Nihua-san doing that, because I feel like that's the point of the plot twist. Nihua-san is a character that the whole of the show, you consider it like a secondary character, as if a secondary character. He is this playful buffoon that, he doesn't like doing anything. Obviously, there are hints that he's actually smarter than he seems, but for the most part, he just seems like a playful, just, happy-go-lucky character that is just there, but, even when we find out that he's the new Ni Clan leader, it's like, oh god, poor guy. Now is that, I mean, obviously I was crying because I find that is how I realized that Ni Minjoy was dead. But for the most part, it was like, oh god, the poor Nis, now they have that leader. So they build this whole reputation of this guy being completely useless, not knowing anything. So when the time comes for the revelation, and again, some people told me that they saw it coming. You can watch my reaction. You will realize I have literally accused every character of being behind everything except Nihua-san. Nihua-san was the least person that I thought. So when I find out that moment where I think they are in the temple and, Xing Guangxiao has his arm, cut off by Lang Wangji, which was great. I love it. I don't know. I just love seeing Lang Wangji cutting arms. I enjoyed it. Well, depending on the arm, obviously. So, Jing Shao's there without an arm, and I think Lan Xishen has his back to him, and has his back to Nihua-san, is tending him, and he asks Nihua-san for medicine or something like that, and we have like a moment of looking at Nihua-san and Nihua-san making a face, and that's the moment where it's like, oh, that is, when everything starts to fall into place. That moment to me, again, it was, and then you actually understand the extent of what he did, but already that moment is so much. I love that plot twist. I love mystery stories. I love detective stories. So I'm all for, plot twists and things like that. And I feel that was incredible. And in the donghua, they decided to make it more obvious to that it was Nihua-san. And it was a choice. And it's not a choice that I particularly care about. I think that's pretty obvious. But I don't know. I really can't get behind it. The surprise, and it's a pity because I feel like somebody who watched the donghua and then watches the Untamed and them not having that moment of realization that it was all Nihua-san. And it's like, oh, I can imagine not having that. I don't know what it's like in the novel. I don't know if in the novel they make it obvious or it's the same as the donghua. I hope it's like in the Untamed. Like, I really love that, that plot twist. I thought it was great. As for the others, again, I don't know if I consider the Golden Core a plot twist. There's also a moment in which we find out that Shang Cheng had, let's say, taken soldiers away from where Wushan was, and that is the reason why he lost his core. I like that, but I think in the donghua they did something very similar, if not the same. I don't know if it's a plot twist because I think it is a plot twist. Wait a minute. I have to tell my mouth to shut up and let my brain work. It is a plot twist, but I feel like, unlike the one with Lan Zixue and the one with Nihua-san, it's not a plot twist that you have the seeds growing from even the first episode. Like, literally, you watch the first episode to the Untamed again, and it's like, already there we had the seeds of this, that you're only going to get the answer in episode like 40 something or 50. So again, to me, the plot twist, I wasn't crazy about it. Then we have some weird changes. And these are changes with respect to the Untamed. But again, if I don't know what the novel is like, I don't know if these changes belong in the novel or in the Untamed. But in any case, I feel like for the story, they didn't do much for me. I wasn't crazy. The first one is the fact that Lang Wangji was with Wei Wuxian during Niminjue's empathy flashback. I don't understand that. I have a theory as to why that is. I feel if you watch the first 2 seasons of donghua, or at least let me rephrase that. If you watch the first 2 seasons of the donghua expecting to see a lot of Wei Wuxian and Lang Wangji, you're not going to see much, because those seasons, I think they're pretty scarce when it comes to moments between them. I feel like they decided to, grab everything that was Lang Wangji and Wei Wuxian's relationship and just cram it in the 3rd season. The 3rd season is Wang Xian from the start to finish. Like, all the time. Like, there is no moment that is not Wang Xian in the 3rd season, which is the fact, which is why I love it. And I imagine that's why a lot of people love it. So I feel like maybe they wanted to keep Lang Wangji next to Wei Wuxian because they give them more opportunities of having them moments together. That is the only explanation that I can find. Or maybe, no, that is not the only explanation. I think a more realistic explanation is probably because it makes it, having no time to do things, I think it makes it easier, not to have Wei Wuxian seeing something and then Wei Wuxian having to tell Lang Wangji and then Lang Wangji having to tell someone else probably. We cut the middle, and Lang Wangji already knows, and that's it. That's the only other explanation that I can find. The problem that I find with this, like, normally it wouldn't bother me, except that after that, when Lan Xishen doesn't believe Wei Wuxian that he saw what he saw, in the Untamed is because he doesn't believe Wei Wuxian. I don't know if I would say he doesn't trust him, but maybe he doesn't trust him because, he has a reputation and he doesn't know him that well, so he has and he knows Jing Wenchao a lot better, so I think it's not that he doesn't believe Wei Wuxian, he's believing Jing Wenchao over him. If Lan Wangji was there, then he's not only not trusting Wei Wuxian what he's saying, he's also not trusting his brother. His brother is literally telling, no, look, this is what I saw. I saw this. I saw Jing Wenchao doing this. And Lan Xishen is saying, yeah, but I know Jing Wenchao and he wouldn't do those things. And he's your own brother. And not only your own brother, is Lan Wangji, who we know is probably the most upright person, the most honest person that there is. That's my problem with Lan Wangji being there. I think it creates a weird thing between him and Lan Xishen, because it's no longer Lan Xishen not believing Wei. And also, it's also about the parallels, because in the Untamed, we have, on the one hand, Lan Wangji believing Wei Wuxian, who is someone that in general people find distrustful and all that. Although we know the truth, people don't like him and they think he's the Yinin patriarch and this whole mass murderer, whatever. But he stands for him. He stands for Wei Wuxian, Lan Wangji. And on the other hand, we have Lan Xishen, who has a friendship with Jing Wenchao, and a lot of people also goes again, and a lot of people tell him, maybe this guy's a little bit shifty, but he still stands with him. So we have that parallel thing in between them that I feel is completely ruined with having, Lan Wangji also there and telling him, no, I actually saw it. Like, sure, he didn't saw the head because, he wasn't inside of the, secret whatever sex dungeon that Jing Wenchao had there, but he saw enough. He saw everything that Wei Wuxian saw in empathy. So I don't get why Lan Xishen would be so mistrustful. Like, I feel like he will say, well, I know him, so there must be some mistake, but still it's your brother telling you. So I don't know. It didn't feel right to me. I feel it created more conflict than it was necessary. The other thing that I don't like, and in this case, I feel like I can speak a little bit about the novel. This is the only thing I can speak about the novel because I have read this far. Look, I haven't read a lot of it, but this I have read. In the donghua, there is the suggestion that maybe Wei Wuxian was always tempted by demonic cultivation. There was something inside of him that was attracted to it. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I think it does change Wei Wuxian, how we see Wei Wuxian bad. In the novel, at least up to the point that I have read, and I have read at least the part where he talks about this, in Cloud Recesses, when he starts talking about demonic cultivation, he's not tempted. He's not even interested in doing it. He's probably being a troll, trying to, annoy Lan Qiren and saying things that, he knows they are not going to go down too well. But still, he says, I'm not interested in demonic cultivation. I would never do it. Why would I do demonic cultivation if I can do this type of cultivation? So that makes it very clear that for him, demonic cultivation was a last resort. He didn't have any other thing to do. He didn't have any other opportunity. He didn't have any other possibility. So he had to do demonic cultivation to, avenge his family and all of that and save himself, obviously. So that is the only way out that he found. So making this suggestion, and it's not a very strong suggestion, but it's still something that I didn't like. I think it's in the first, I don't think. It is in the first season. And it's when they go to the lake to deal with the water ghouls, whatever. And that's when we get the first, suggestion that Wei Wuxian was always I have this demonic powers that I could use, but I'm not going to use them. I'm going to resist the temptation. He was never tempted, as far as I was concerned. And the same happened in the Untamed. I don't think in the Untamed he was tempted. He just, again, he just used them because he had to. And again, that is other weird change that I didn't like. They also added something that I didn't understand, that I wasn't crazy about, but I think it was in the second season, and it's part of the black hole that is the second season for me, so I'll just leave it there. I'm not going to say a lot about that. Then we have an aspect of the ending that I wasn't too happy about, or at least it sounded weird to me, and it's the fact that at the end of the donghua, for some reason, Chang Chen goes into seclusion. But Lan Xishen doesn't? I guess it's never clear whether he does or not. And I find that weird. I don't know if I like it. I don't feel Chang Chen will go into seclusion. I feel that he's too proud to go into seclusion. I don't think he would accept it. I think Chang Chen just would, continue living. I was like, you know what? All these things that I find out that I didn't want to find out, I'm going to lock them away and don't think about them for a very long time. But the real reason why I think that he didn't go into seclusion is probably Jingling. I don't look, a lot of people don't like Chang Chen. And I think in a lot of ways maybe they are right. But I haven't finished the novel yet, so I don't know to what extent maybe he should be disliked. I'm not sure. I'm not too crazy about him in the book as far as I read. I don't hate him. He's there. But I think there is something that I never doubted, which is the fact that whether he's a good parental figure or not, or whether he's right in the things that he does or not, I do believe that he cares for Jingling. That I have no doubt. How he shows that love, I think that is something else. So knowing that Jingling was left alone because Jing Wenshao is dead and there's no one else for him to support him, I don't think Chang Chen would go into seclusion. I like to think that he'll stay and maybe help him. I like to think. I also think he's too proud for seclusion, but that is another thing. I don't know. I don't know. That didn't sound right to me. And Lan Xishen going into seclusion, I don't know if it's something that is said in the Untamed. And at this stage, look, I have read a lot of fan fiction, so I don't know if that's where I got it, that Lan Xishen went into seclusion after the ending of the Untamed, or after the end, what happened in the temple, or if someone told me that's what happened in the book, or I don't know. But to me, if it is, look, if I invented it, or if it's just something that is fanon rather canon, then fine. But if it's canon that Lan Xishen goes into seclusion, then I find that very interesting, because we know that his father went into seclusion. And obviously throughout the story, we have all these comparisons between that. At first, we believe that Lang Wangji is sort of paralleling his father with his relationship with his mother. Although I feel that at some point, we do realize that in fact it's Lan Xishen the one that is more at risk to repeat his father's mistakes. And the fact that he goes into seclusion shows that maybe he is repeating his father's mistake. Hopefully he lives one day. Hopefully I'm not inventing any of this as well, but, well. The fact that, for example, after Wei Wuxian's death, Lang Wangji, I think, stayed in seclusion for a while, but I think it was mostly because of what they did to him with the whipped. But then he wasn't in seclusion. Like, he had a life. Obviously, he also had a Xuan that maybe helped, but he also has his responsibilities to the sect. So that's why I feel that this comparison between Lang Wangji and his dad, it doesn't, at first glance, it could seem like it's a comparison, and especially because in the Untamed, Lan Xishen points out that is what, in a very helpful moment, he says, this is the comparison that we should be making, which is an interesting moment because I don't think it was the comparison we were meant to be doing. I think there was someone else that we should be worrying about, but that's besides the point. Lan Xishen is definitely the one who suffers a lot at the end, and I feel that he's more likely to go into seclusion. I also feel that the land sect is a sect that they love going into seclusion. So I don't know. I don't know about Chang Cheng. Again, it's just something that sounded weird to me. Is there any other thing that I don't like about the Dao Zu Shi donghua? Look, I think it looked beautiful. My problem with it, not my problem, but something that maybe it made it difficult for me in particular to watch it. And look, it's an unfair comment, because I'm not used to watching any sort of animation, especially not Asian animation, like not even donghua, but also manga. I don't watch anything of that, or anime. I don't watch any of that. The last things that I probably watched were Sailor Moon when I was a preteen. So I don't have a lot of experience with, animated things. So I also think that that's maybe why at some points it was maybe a little bit difficult for me to differentiate characters. Like, for the life of me, I could never identify Shingon Shao. The moment he took his hat away, that is like, who is that? I have no idea. Like, there were a lot of characters like that. Obviously I recognized the main ones, but when it came to the smaller characters, like, I have no idea who that is. I don't know. So I feel like, again, this is probably more of a me problem, but I sometimes find it difficult. And also, I feel like the difference between the present and the past, and this is maybe an unfair comment, because the Untamed, there's barely any difference. Like, especially with the actors, you have actors that were like 20-something playing, teenagers, and then playing characters that were supposed to be in their 30s. But they're cultivators, so it's fine. But at least there was like a change in style, I guess. You can, for example, you take Lang Wenji. You see Lang Wenji in his teens, and you see Lang Wenji in his, 30s, and you know that which one is which. You realize. In this, I have the feeling that, a lot of the time, it took me a while, especially because it has a lot of jumps, and that is something else that I'm not crazy about. And again, because of my experience reading the book, I know that this is probably something that does come from the book. But, it's an adaptation. You change other things. You can also change these. I feel that this jumping around between the past and the present, personally, I don't like it. I don't like it here. I don't like it in any book. I don't remember anything that I've seen that I watched that has those types of jumps that I like. That's not true. I watched recently a show that had jumps, and I was fine with. But they were smaller. They were not these types of jumps. I feel that, I don't know, it just confuses me. It took a moment to see, is this the present? Is this the past? It was difficult to tell what was happening, especially because there wasn't much change in the characters. So it's like, where are we? What's happening now? I already am not a fan of those sorts of jumps. But I feel like, I don't know, they are confusing. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not a fan. I don't like them. I really like how they did in the Untamed, that obviously you have other flashbacks here. For example, ECT, you have flashback when they do empathy. We have another flashback again with empathy when they are in Jilingtai and, doing empathy to Niminjo's head. But those are like more specific instances. Like, we are seeing this in particular. Other than that, I much prefer the longer flashback and then ending the flashback, and that's it. I feel also it helps you connect with the characters a lot more. It helps you get more in that mindset. Follow the characters, and then at the end of it, you understand the weight of what they live through, everything that happens to them. Personally, I prefer it like that. But again, I think it's a matter of taste. As I said, I don't like narratives that jump from the past to the present. So, this is not an objective opinion. This is just mainly me not liking jumping around in, between the past and the present. And I think that's pretty much it. There's not a lot that I didn't like. Like, let me just say this. I actually like the donghua a lot. This is not a lot. Like, this is not something very big. I would say I'll leave it for the end. I will leave my final comments for the end. Let's go to the things I did like, and there are a lot of them. There are a lot of things that I like. The first thing that I noticed when I started watching the show is the fact of how well the magic aspect of the show is portrayed. And obviously this has two aspects, but to me, the first aspect is in general showing that this place is a magical place, that this culture, these people, they are not regular people. They're magical. They do things, like they do a lot of things. The way that they live is magical. The way they live is fantasy. This is not just like, I compare it, for example, I would say if I compare it with World of Honor, and if you have seen World of Honor, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but in World of Honor there is no magic because it's wuxia. So it's mostly martial arts. They do some pretty crazy things, but it's mostly martial arts. And I feel the Untamed, it's that, but with some magic added to it. I never got the feeling that, oh, this is a fun, like, obviously, I would hesitate to call it a complete fantasy world, but it feels like everything is fantasy. Like, you go to Cloud Recesses, or you go to even Jilin-Tai, you go to these places and you can tell that this is not just a regular place. You have things like, for example, again, this is something that maybe I should have said at the beginning, but I do understand that the Untamed had very little budget, so they couldn't afford doing these things. I get it. Still, I'm still going to say this. If you see the donghua and you see, for example, Cloud Recesses, you have this whole thing carved in the side of the mountain that is their precepts, the principles, whatever. And it's huge. There you can see there is thousands of them, which you compare to the little rock that they had in the Untamed, and it's like 100. Like, I didn't count. I don't know what, and I don't know that much Chinese to say this is what it says, but it doesn't look that impressive. Or the same with Jilin-Tai. They have this thing in the donghua for Jilin-Tai that when they're going to climb up the stairs, instead of, they have like a little elevator. And I don't know, that just seems so magical. That's great. But everything, I feel like everything, even the way they fight. In the Untamed, they're pretty much, obviously you have your Guqins and you have your Sidians and all of that. And you wouldn't need, I'm going to talk about Wei Wuxian and his powers later. But other than that, it's just sword fighting. That's that's all there is. Obviously, they can jump very high and all of that, but they can do also that in martial arts stories, and they don't have any magic. So again, it didn't feel, you didn't get this idea, oh, these people are very powerful and they can do a lot of things. And even comparing to other things, during some of my breaks, I actually watch some Chinese shows on Netflix. I watch specifically 2 shows that I said that I was going to watch a long time ago, and I was considering doing a reaction, but I couldn't wait, so I actually watched them. So I watch, what's their names? Eternal Love with Mark Chow, who I love. I love Mark Chow. And then I watch Ashes of Love with, what's the other name? The one who played Boya in Yin and Master. Deng Lung, I think. Something like that. Obviously, this is all the influence of the Yin and Master, but I watch those shows. One of those shows I absolutely love, the other one I couldn't even finish. But let me know if you want reviews of these, because I actually have a lot of opinions. But even those shows deal with gods and things like that. And every time they fight, it's not a regular fight. They don't fight, obviously they have swords, or do they have swords? Now I don't remember. But whenever they fight, even considering the special effects, which are not, the best thing in the world, the fights still feel, if not magical, they still feel like, not normal. This is not regular fight. This is 2 things that are incredibly powerful in magic, or they have incredible power fighting. And that's what I like about the donghua. I feel like all of the fights, they felt like that. Whenever the characters were fighting, it was never just, oh, swords, I'm going to fight. Everything felt, fantastic. That's what I like about the donghua. And more specifically, we have the powers of the Wei Wuxian. And this is another thing that in the Untamed, again, because of the budget, I know, but they're, look, even in there is one moment in which is pretty impressive, which is when Wei Wuxian is taking revenge on Wen Chao and Wang Linchao. In that moment, it looks impressive. And I feel like maybe in the final fight of the Sunshot campaign, I have a feeling that I did like that one. But you never get the exact, idea of how powerful Wei Wuxian is. Like, you have these small moments. For example, another moment that I really like about Wei Wuxian's abilities is when he's in the temple and he starts whistling, controlling this ghost. And I thought that, oh, so he's very powerful. But even in the fight that we have, the last fight before the end of the flashback, what do we call that? Like the fight at, I don't know, Nightless City or something like that. And in that fight, I think he's supposed to have killed like 3,000 cultivators. Obviously, we don't have anything closer to that number because I don't think they could pay that many extras. But when you see that fight, Wei Wuxian is at best just controlling some smoke that pushes people around. Maybe there was some killing going on that I wasn't seeing it, but that's what it looked like. It didn't look impressive. It didn't look like, the music and the whole situation, made the whole scene very impressive. But when you still saw his power, it wasn't like, oh God, wow. You wouldn't, at least that happened to me. I was never like completely, in awe, like, oh, the healing patriarch really is incredibly powerful. I remember him being incredibly sexy, but I don't think that's a power, I believe. But that's the best that he had looked at. In the Untamed, when Wei Wuxian is the healing patriarch, that's his best look. And I'm going to, that look, just my opinion. In the donghua, like every time Wei Wuxian uses his powers is incredible. Like you could see that he has incredible power, and you can see why people will be afraid of the patriarch. You could see like not only because he does some disgusting things that I don't even want to think about, but he's in general like in the. I feel like in the Untamed, you hear all this reputation, especially when you hear it after knowing what happened. And it's kind of laughable because, like, what is he supposed to have done? Not only because he was innocent to a lot of that, but also because, I don't know, we never saw him showing that much power. Well, in the donghua, you see what he can do, and obviously you know that he wouldn't do a lot of things that he's accused of, but maybe just because he didn't want to, because he obviously was very powerful. So I feel like, the menace and the whole magnitude of Wei Wuxian's powers is something that is better portrayed in the donghua, and I actually really, really like. And I feel like I feel a lot of people call Wei Wuxian a great character or morally great character, which I don't agree. I don't think he's a morally great character. After watching the donghua and after watching the Untamed and listening both of his adaptations, I don't think he's a morally great character. I think he's a completely white moral character. Is that how you call it? I don't know. I actually don't think there are that. I think a lot of people like to throw morally great at a lot of characters that don't belong into that category, but that is another matter. But I do feel that the donghua, because it shows like the extent of his powers a lot better, it does show him as a much, I don't know if darker, I think a much darker character that he is in the Untamed. Not because he's morally grey or because he's bad, but because his powers deal with a lot of things that are very dark. And his behavior, I feel, is very dark as well. Like, I don't know. I liked it. I like that a lot, but definitely a change for the Untamed. I don't know which one I like the most. I probably the donghua. I do like the donghua best, but in that sense. But again, I wasn't too bothered by it in the Untamed. What else? What else did I like? Obviously, I know that animated shows don't have the same amount of censorship that live action ones. And that's definitely you can tell in the donghua. I feel the donghua has a lot of aspects that were more openly shown than the Untamed. And I'm not only talking about romantic aspects or maybe the whole thing about, for example, one of the things they change in the Untamed is the fact that when they find Mo Xuan Yu, and he pretends that he likes Lang Wenji just because he thinks that maybe Lang Wenji is going to get mad and tell him to go away or something like that. That is something that I did read in the book, so that's something that I can speak confidently. That doesn't happen in the Untamed, obviously. That whole situation is completely different, but we have something a lot closer in the donghua. At least I feel like he did say that Lang Wenji was his type. Like, he never make it clear, but he did say it. So I feel like even in that sense, maybe less censor than the Untamed is. But obviously in the whole, like, the romantic aspect, the whole relationship between Lang Wenji and Wei Wuxian, again, especially in the third season, because I still have the theory that they actually crammed all of the Wangxian in the third season, but they are constantly together. They are, touching each other, grabbing each other. Just the ending is obviously just an open declaration that, the whole parallel that they do between Wei Wuxian's parents and, Lang Wenjin and him, and he's saying, all we are missing is a little one. That obviously, they're not saying it out loud. It's not like I was going to say they're not going to get them married, but I think they were. Didn't they get married in the episode when they were, inside the cave in Burial Mounds? I don't know, but it was definitely more open about certain things, especially about the relationship between Wei Wuxian and Lang Wenji, which obviously I just love. The fact that they actually say that the song is called Wangxian, the fact that he says, let's go home, and they go home together. Again, they were able to be a lot more open with certain things. But that's not it. They were also opening something that I didn't enjoy as much, but just because I'm a big chicken, which is the fact that all of the horror of the story is definitely not toned down. In the Untamed, and again, I am a chicken, but there was no point in the story in which I have to look away. Like, there was, as far as I remember, I was fine. Like, all of the show, like, even the puppets, which in the donghua, they were absolutely terrifying because they weren't puppets, they were actually zombies. But even the puppets in the Untamed, they just look like extras with bad wigs. That's it. But in the donghua, they look absolutely terrifying. Everything looks terrifying. Like, we actually see them eating people. I don't like that. I don't want to see them eating anybody. So even those disgusting things that I didn't want to watch, the ghosts, all of it, they show it. And I think that is another aspect that helps create a much darker Wei Wuxian at that sense. Like, because his abilities deal with things that are dark, like with death and with ghosts and with bodies. So I feel that helps create this darker image that Wei Wuxian has as the Yilin Patriarch. Again, this is not, if the Untamed was like that, I don't think I would have gone past through the first couple of episodes, because I'm a big chicken and there are things that although I am not happy to watch, I tolerate them a lot better in animation than I do in real life. And there were parts in the donghua that I seriously have to cover my eyes. Like, when Chao's dead, I still don't know what happened to him, and I don't want to know. Like, the moment I saw the zombies and when Chao's like, you know what? It's enough. I just want to know. He's dead? Okay, that's all I need to know. And I believe that there were more, maybe other parts that I just looked away because I just don't like to watch this. And again, in my case, this is something that I don't enjoy. But I do admit that they give the story something else. They change certain aspects of the story, and I think they enrich the story a lot, even though I don't want to personally see any of that, anymore. Even the whole thing about, in the Untamed, they change, Nimindra's body, like body parts rather, his arm that was just randomly going everywhere. they changed that to his sword spirit, and it was fine. It didn't bother me, the change. But obviously in here they could keep that. In the donghua they could keep that. They could actually have them put together the body and all of that. So I like that. I like that they could keep true to those aspects of the novel. The other thing that I like is that, as far as I could see, or also there are certain aspects that they kept more faithful to the novel. As I said, especially in the first season, I have the feeling that that is probably the one that was the most faithful one. And then they started to change a lot of things, but at the beginning they definitely were a lot closer, and I like that. I like that. I like that we had, something, closer to the original novel, especially because at least that part I have already started. I have read, the last thing I read in the novel was the Cloud Recesses arc. So at least until that part, I know. So I am happy that that part, they kept the same. Obviously, there are changes in the Untamed that I did like. Like, for example, they having Yan Li there as well. And what else? There is a lot of Lang Wenji and Wei Wuxian in the Untamed. I think I have the feeling that in the Untamed they have to, develop their relationship a lot earlier, because that's pretty much the selling point of the show. So they could have much longer relationship, I guess. So I'm not complaining about that. I'm not complaining that the Untamed change things. And in fact, I'm actually pretty chill with adaptations changing things. So I'm probably not the person to complain a lot because they change things. But, I do like this version as well. I like the version that has the more faithful, beginning as well. I don't know if this is the beginning or what part, but didn't the donghua show us Lan Qiren without a beard? Did I imagine that? Is that a fever dream? Because if they did, I am pretty sure. Is it the donghua or is it just an image that I saw from the manhwa? Now I'm not sure. My memory. I am an old person. My memory is just going. Anyway, I like that. I like that, for the people who complain about the changes, you have something a little bit more faithful there. Obviously, something that I like is the ending. I obviously already talked about the fact that I didn't like Chang Cheng going to seclusion and all of that. But I did like the other, more particularly the Wang Xian parts of the ending. That part I approve wholeheartedly. I loved it. It was cute. Great ending. I also like the fact that we didn't have that thing in the Untamed. Obviously, not the separation thing, but they making Lang Wenji. Oh, what is the name of this? The leader of the cultivators. It has a name, the position, but it has gone off my mind. It's like, I was going to say first cultivator, but I know that's ridiculous. Chief cultivator. Is it chief cultivator? Let's say it is. So they did him chief cultivator. They declare him chief cultivator. I don't see it. Lang Wenji is someone who, instead of speak, he rather cuts people's arms. Can you imagine him in a cultivation conference when sect leader Shao start complaining? He only has 2 arms. Like, do you know how quickly he's going to run out of limbs with Lang Wenji as chief cultivators? That's crazy. I like Lin Wasan as chief cultivator. He has the brains. Yes, he's a manipulator, but politicians usually are. Like, that it happens. I have accepted it. And at least again, I don't know how it is in the novel, but at least in the Untamed, it seems like he's more interested in using his smarts for his own good. So I don't feel like he's going to manipulate to do anything evil. And I doubt that he would become like someone like Wen Ruhan or something like that. So I don't know. I find that either he'll be fine as chief cultivator, or maybe don't have a chief cultivator at all, because it's not like the position is a lucky one. It's like the professor of, what is it? defense against the dark arts in Harry Potter. Maybe it's cursed. Maybe we shouldn't have that position. It doesn't seem like a good idea. So that's my opinion. So that aspect I really like about the ending. I also like, look, I feel like a lot of people, like, there is a moment in the Untamed, and I think it also happens in the donghua. So I have the feeling that, and because I know that moment in the Untamed was not done on purpose. So I think that maybe there was some influence there for the donghua, unless I'm imagining this, unless this never happened. Let me know if this happened in the donghua. But there's a moment where Nihua-san finds Jingun Shao's hat after the whole, temple thing, and he grabs it and it's bloody, so he gets blood on his hands, which is obviously very, very telling of what he did. Like, someone who, he didn't want to get blood on his hands, so he manipulated all these people to do the things that he wanted to happen, and at the end he ended up getting his hands dirty anyway. I think it's very interesting, and I think a lot of people took that moment to, let's just say, assign more feelings that Nihua-san had for Shingun Shao that he actually did. I don't feel like, look, I think maybe people who say that are very young and maybe they have very intense relationships. I had very, very good friendships of years. That's one day we just stopped seeing each other, and now I just don't care about them. So I feel like if I find out that those people kill my brother, I wouldn't mind if they died. What do you want me to say? I wouldn't kill them myself because I'm not Nihua-san. I'm not that smart, but I wouldn't be happy with them. So I feel like, yes, maybe he lamented that at one time he was close to him, but I don't feel that he was that, that broken up about him. I feel like maybe this was more for himself, like the extent of what he had to do. Like, I don't think he ever wanted to be the person that he is in the present of the donghua. I feel like he was fully willing to be someone who just lived for painting, for his fans, for his birds, just be happy in that position. And the fact that he had to do a lot and he had to change in a lot of ways to do the things that he had to do. So I think he's not so much mourning Jingun Zhao, which maybe some aspect of his, but I think more than that, I think he's mourning himself. He's seeing the blood in his hands, and like it or not, even though he didn't kill him with his own hands, he did kill him. He did, cause his death. So I think maybe he's mourning, I don't know, his innocence, the person who he was, and a person that he's never going to go back. And now that the revenge is over, he got what he wanted. Like, what's next? You change everything for that, and once you get it, who are you, what you're going to do? That's how I interpret that moment. I don't know how I ended speaking of this. No, the ending. One of the things that I like is the fact that we see Nihua-san pretty much living his best life. He doesn't seem broken up about it. He doesn't seem broken up about Jingun Zhao. He's there, he's happy, he got what he wanted. I like that. Because again, I don't feel like, at least Jingun Zhao's death, I don't feel that he got what he wanted. And sure, he was once a friend, but that was 16 years ago, or maybe even maybe less, but it was some years ago. Like, things happen. I don't know. What else do I like about the donghua? I love drunk Lang Wenji, and the fact that we get double drunk Lang Wenji, we get drunk Lang Wenji in 2. That was great, because in the Untamed we only get him once. Like, sure, we get him the whole night, but I could have gotten like 4 or 5 episodes of drunk Lang Wenji. If Lang Wenji had drunk for a few more episodes, and then, can you imagine? I'm sure somebody must have written like the same thing that happened in the Untamed, but this time Lang Wenji is drunk. Just the event of the Untamed, but if Lang Wenji had been drunk, I would love to read that. Anyway, I could have gotten a lot more drunk Lang Wenji, but I was happy with what we got. In the first one, we get him taking off his ribbon and tying Wei Wuxian with it, which is boy, very telling of what Wei Wuxian can expect from, the relationship after the ending. And then we also have Lan Xishen finding them like that, which, can you imagine? What was I would, you know what? If there's something, a lot of people say, I would love to read the novel from Lang Wangji's perspective. No, I would like to read the novel from Lan Xishen's perspective. I want to know what Lan Xishen thought of all the shit his brother was pulling with this guy that he thought it was Mo Xuanyu, but it's actually Lang Wangji, Wei Wuxian. Like, I don't even need the whole novel. I just need certain chapters. I need to know what other people were thinking in that place, because I find that is hilarious. The moment Lan Xishen entered the room and there is Lang Wangji drunk, there is Wei Wuxian with his hand tied with his brother's purity headband. That's wild. I love that. And then in the second drunk adventures, we have something a lot closer to what happened in the Untamed, which is, Lang Wangji stealing the chickens and writing in the wall and all of that. Everything was very sweet. Everything I really like. It was great. They have a moment, and again, I don't know where I would put this. This goes somewhere. There was a moment in the Untamed that they suggested that maybe Wei Wuxian and Lang Wangji had met when they were children, when Wei Wuxian was living in the street and Lang Wangji gave him a little drum. I didn't get that. I don't know. I don't know if it was a dream. I'm not sure what was happening there. It was cute. I liked it. I like watching it, but I don't know how it fits the rest of the story. What else? There's also a weird moment that I don't know is because they have decided to do like the story in a way, and then they change it like they decided to do it in another order and they didn't change it. But there is a moment in which Wei Wuxian destroys I think it's the Stygian tiger amulet. He destroys the amulet that he has. I don't remember what it's called in the donghua. And, Lang Wangji appears and he destroys it with him. But then when Wei Wuxian and Lang Wangji are in the donkey, then that's why, that's when Lang Wangji tells, they're talking, oh, wait, mouth, stop, let my brain think for a moment. They're talking about Wei Wuxian destroying this, and he's saying like, oh, don't worry, it's not going to be like last time, I can do it safely, but he already destroyed it in the previous scene. I don't know. I have the feeling that maybe they swapped the order and they just forgot to change it. Something. I don't know. To me, it didn't make any sense. Also, I've started to mix lists because this goes in the parts that I don't like. And I think I would put this in the same level as having the core reveal after the temple rather than before, which is what happened in the Untamed. But also the fact that after the temple, we find out about, what Lang Wangji did for Wei Wuxian, the whole thing with the whips that he received when he went looking for him, the fact that he tried to save him and fought people from his own sect. I like that earlier in the novel, not in the novel, earlier in the story. I feel like, again, everything that happens in the third season is great, but at some point, I also feel that the whole closeness between Lang Wangji and Wei Wuxian, it comes a little bit out of nowhere. And this is not something that I not necessarily, like when I was watching, I was fine with it. But the more I think about it after, the less, sit right with me. Like, this is weird. Because as I said, up to the second season, it's not like they were enemies. Like, you could see why people would think they were enemies, but it's not like they were particularly close, even though we also have, flashbacks. We have flashback. We also have parts of the present of the story in that, and still there, you don't see them being that close. And at some point, third season starts and they are inseparable. Like, you literally can't. If you see Wei Wuxian, there is Lang Wangji, probably 10 centimeters away, and obviously, I loved it, and when I watched it, I was very happy because it's exactly what I wanted to watch. But the more I think about it, the weirder it was, because like, where this come from? Like, this wasn't happening in the past season. And again, there's a lot of the second season that I erased my mind apparently. So to me, it would make a lot more sense to have that sort of declaration, or that sort of, Wei Wuxian receiving that information, and that's when he, gets closer to Lang Wangji or something. I don't know. I don't know. I think maybe this has to do with the pacing as well, with the pacing problem, but I feel like I prefer the way the show is organized in the Untamed, with all those, all that information coming up before the ending, and then we have the ending, and then we have like the resolution, and that's it. And also because I feel like I feel like the whole thing in the temple is really a climax, it's truly a climax. So, after that, if we still getting, things, it's like, it's like, okay, I'll take it, but I don't know. I'd rather have it before. I don't know if I'm making sense anymore. I'm also recording this very late at night, but, hopefully some of the things that I'm saying make sense. Wait, I remember, this is not something that I put on my list. I'm gone off list because I didn't write anything. I remember things that I wanted to mention that are not off my list. This is why I'm going off list. The other thing that I really, really like in the donghua, like this is probably one of my favorite parts in the donghua, is the whole thing that they have with the blood pool and the wens. I love that. I love that scene. That scene obviously is not something that I think they could have done in the Untamed, because they barely have money for extras or good wigs for the puppets. But boy, I would have loved to see that. Well, actually no, because they are zombies. I don't want to see zombies. But it would have looked impressive. But I think more than that, it gives us so much closure on the wens. I feel like that is something that happens in the Untamed. Especially in the Untamed, we actually spend some time with the wens. I feel like there is a whole episode that we spend just, showing, the play, how Wei Wuxian are living, how the wens are living. So we got some time to get to know them. I don't think that happened in the donghua. I don't feel we get that much time to know how they live, like what is their settlement like how appreciative they are to Wei Wuxian. So I am happy they got at least this. But even then, I feel like one day they just disappeared. And at least in the Untamed, I don't remember in the donghua. I don't remember what happens to them. Like, we know they're gone, but again, second season is like a void to me. But in the Untamed, the next time we see them, they're just hanging there. And obviously it's terrible, but it's like there is never any closure with it. And it's just sad. It's just sad that you never, in the donghua, they at least get the recognition that they deserve. And also they are able to recognize what Wei Wuxian did for them. So I really like that. I feel like it's the closure that they deserved. Because obviously, another thing that I really love that is the fact that and again, I don't want to tear up because this is something that is make me cry. But the fact that they could see that Lan Zixue was alive, or Ashuan was alive, that their sacrifice wasn't in vain, that was great. The fact that they could see him and give him back the toy. And obviously in the Untamed, you get Wening. Like, you get that, but only through Wening. Like, oh, look, not everything is lost. You have this. But I don't know. I feel I really like better the version in donghua with, then being able to see him, then he's fine, he's doing great, he's living his best life. And I don't know. I liked it. I'm starting to tear up, so I don't want to talk about this anymore because I'm going to end up bawling. What else did I like? I really like the music, the beginning, the music that we have in the beginning, but the music in general. Obviously, do they have Wang Xian in this? I don't remember Wang Xian, so obviously maybe it wasn't that memorable, which in the Untamed it was. But in the Untamed they were playing it constantly. Whenever Lang Wangji and Wei Wuxian were in the same scene together, play play Wang Qian. I don't necessarily remember what Wang Qian was look like in this, but again, I have very bad memory. If you, especially with music, if you don't play music like 500 times, I'm going to forget about it. And but I did like the music. I did like the art. I think it looked beautiful. I really, again, I'm not an expert on animation, but I really enjoy the fact that they combined sort of 3D things with 2D animation. I would say that it wasn't always incredibly successful, but most of the time it created pretty impressive things and it did look great. What else? I think that's pretty much it. As final comments, these are my final comments. I liked the donghua. I liked it a lot. Again, I don't know how would I felt about it if I had seen it first, but after seeing it with the Untamed, I really enjoyed it. And would I watch it again? Yes, I would skip a lot of it, especially things related to zombies. That whole part, I will skip so fast. I'll probably skip some other parts, like the second season. I don't want to say anything, but I'll probably skip a good chunk of that. And mine already did. But for the most part, I think I'll probably rewatch a lot of it. I liked it. It was enjoyable. It definitely, I feel, look, how can I say this? As I said, I am more chill about adaptations. I don't mind adaptation changing things, especially if those changes are going to, I don't know, bring a new perspective or going to add something new to the story. Maybe a few years ago, I was more strict. Look, when I was younger, I watched The Lord of the Rings being adapted, which was one of my favorite books of all time. I watched Harry Potter being adapted, which was a book that I enjoy, and I complain about it from both of them. And I don't know about Harry Potter, but at least looking back, I look at The Lord of the Rings and I can admit that it's actually a perfect adaptation. I think they did a great job there. And again, I become more mellow with age, so I don't mind that much having adaptation changing. And I actually enjoy it because I don't know how much I would enjoy, especially in this case that we have several versions of it. Like we have, the live action, we have the donghua, we have the manhwa, we have the, it's not a radio play, but you know the one that I mean. You can have three versions that are exactly the same. If they were the three exactly the same, I would just watch one. I would just stick to one and wouldn't watch the other ones because I know that it's the same story told the same way. So that's why I enjoy these types of adaptations, each of them bringing something new to the table, each of them bringing a new perspective or showing you something different. So I think that's what allows you to rewatch everything. That, sometimes I'm in the mood for this, sometimes in the mood for that. So I think I can appreciate that in these adaptations. I like the fact that they tried to add things, they tried to shake things up a little bit, they tried to, obviously changing a medium, you're going to have to do some changes, but sometimes you do some changes because you think some things could be different and it would be interesting, and I'm fine with that. I'm not unhappy with that. So that being said, I can imagine rewatching this show in the future and maybe paying more attention to this. maybe I could understand the second season at some point, but well, not if I skip it. But if I have to choose a favorite, I will still choose the Untamed. I feel the donghua, up to the second season, it focused a lot in the action and a little bit less in developing characters and developing relationships and, building certain things that I really like. Personally, I don't mind about the action. I don't mind about the special effects. I do mention the special effects and, certain things about the Untamed that it's obvious that they didn't have money to make it better. But at the end of the day, I don't mind. I'm someone who grew up watching Star Trek, the original series, and I still watch it and it's fine. It doesn't bother me, these special effects. The same with everything. I don't mind. I don't care about the special effects. Unless they are fantastic in that moment, I say, oh, that's a nice special effects. it's not something that is going to change the way I feel about a show. What I do like is, the interpersonal relationships between the characters. I like the development between the characters. I like having, payoff in the story, like them planting something early on and then seeing it pay off later. That's what I like about stories. And in that sense, I like The Untamed. I know it's not a perfect show, but I do like it. As far as from all of the adaptations that I've seen, still the adaptation that I like the most. But it doesn't mean that I don't like Dao Zu Shi, the donghua. I like it. I like a lot of things about it. I will rewatch it, especially the first and the third season. I think it's a show that is very enjoyable. And again, I'm very curious, or even people who had watched it first and then watched the Untamed, or maybe approached the book. I would like to see opinions of people who have, whose first approximation to the story was Dao Zu Shi, the donghua. I'll find interesting to see, how was that experience? Because again, being that I started with the Untamed, I find it difficult to imagine. But I did start with the Untamed. I think maybe I'll be saying the same for, for people who did it the other way around. Or even for people who started with a book. I don't know. So anyway, this was my opinion of Dao Zu Shi, the donghua. It's definitely longer than I thought. But again, every time that I start talking and I find it very difficult to stop for some reason. So here we are. I think it was semi-organized. I went a little bit off script, not even off script because I didn't have a script. I went off lift at the end, but I feel like it was more organized than usual. So also let me know if you want to hear my thoughts. Maybe I'll write them in Tumblr. I have to start using Tumblr more. I got away from Tumblr because one, I didn't want to get any spoilers from Dangerous Partners, which is a show that I finished actually right before this, which I love. I'm going to be doing a review soon, but you get a sneak preview. I love that show. I don't know if it's a show for everyone, but personally, I loved it. And several people that I follow, they also follow it. And there was spoilers everywhere. So that's why I stopped going into Tumblr for a while. And also because of the negativity. Like, there's so much negativity there. So many people not liking a character. And I'm going to give some names. There's the people who are very against Chang Cheng. There's people who are very in favor of Chang Cheng. I'm not a huge fan of any of this group because I just find that they're just, I don't care that much about Chang Cheng, but also it feels like a lot. It feels, I don't want this level of negativity. Not when I have this much work and I don't have that much time to, enjoy things. So when I enter and try to enjoy things, and then I see, not that I don't enjoy fights. I actually love watching people fight when I don't have any interest in the fight. Like, I don't care what's the outcome, but I enjoy people, seeing people discussing things. But there was a lot of negativity with that. There was, with the translation as well. There was a lot of things. So I don't know, but I should try to, start blocking more people and, blacklisting tags and all of that, and maybe that would make the experience a little bit better, but I don't know how to dedicate some time to that. So anyway, I have some opinions. If you had watched Eternal Love and Ashes of Love, yes, let me know if you want a particular opinion about that, because boy, do I have some opinions of this. Anything else? I don't think I have anything else to say. I'll see. Oh, God, I was already making a promise about a video that I was going to make. You know what? I'm not going to say anything. If there is a video on the weekend, it's going to be a surprise. But I'm not going to put on deadlines because I already have a lot of deadlines at work. And I feel like the self-imposed deadlines, those are the ones that, because I have so many deadlines at work that I can't do anything about, those are the ones that are more likely to break, the ones that are put on myself without any consequence. So nothing. I won't promise anything, But maybe there's going to be something. Maybe there's going to be a video on the weekend. As for the other shows, as you know, replacing this one, I'm going to start watching Heaven's Official Blessing. I finally figured out how to record from Netflix because I tried to get it from other places, but I couldn't. It's for some reason it's blocked from on my country everywhere. Everywhere I tried to watch it, it was like, this video is not available in your country. So the only way, and I downloaded a version, but luckily I realized before I started that it was actually dubbed. And I don't want to watch it the dub because the reason, I like watching Chinese things is that I'm learning Chinese, so nothing. I don't know when these videos are going to come, but they're going to come soon. So be prepared for my Heaven Officials Blessing coming at some point during this century, very likely, I think. Okay, so that's it. I don't think I have anything else to say. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you don't agree, you are very welcome to tell me your opinions in the comments. I welcome different opinions. Just, don't be mean, don't be an asshole, just because everybody has different opinions. Everybody sees things, watches shows from their own perspective and based on their own lives and experience, and we are all going to perceive things differently, and it's fine. Nobody has the right opinion. So if you have a different opinion, I'm welcome to read it, and maybe you will make me change my mind. It wouldn't be the first time. So nothing. I'm just remembering, I'm also going to react to MDS said, some combination of letters. No, too late for me. This is too late at night for me to be trying to spell things. Dao Zu Shi Q, which is like the, chibi version of Dao Zu Shi. I already downloaded, so I'm going to be reacting to that at some point. The only shows that I'm putting on hold for now is Guardian and the Sleuth of Ming Dynasty, because I have a little accident with them, which is the fact that I had already recorded a reaction from them, and it's in the computer that broke. So I don't have access to it, and I'm not going to have access to it. So I'll see what I do if I re-record the reaction. Obviously, it's not going to be a first-time reaction. It's going to be just a second-time reaction. And I'm going to be open about it because those reactions, the first ones, are gone. Or if I'm going to skip them. So, I don't know. I'm going to give some time to think about that. And that's it. That is all I have to say. I'm going to stop here before this is too long. I hope you enjoy me, just my stream of consciousness as usual. And I hope I'll see you back for any of my new reactions, or maybe some review, or maybe I was going to say reaction, but I don't do a reaction. Like a review of the book, I guess, of the novel of Dao Zu Shi. Who knows? Who knows when that's happening? We'll see. Okay, guys, so thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.